I am Bernadette, and I'm a texter. I'm talking bona fide, unapologetic, certified texter. Yes, I am guilty of carrying on full-blown conversations with my family and friends via text message. In fact, everyone in my inner circle knows to text before calling. That's why when my daughter called me on a Tuesday morning at 11:51 a.m., I freaked out. I answered the phone and my panic was met with a soft, low voice on the other end. She whispered, "Mommy, there's an active shooter on campus, and I just called to say I love you." I think I stopped breathing. And for what felt like forever, I was speechless. But I gathered myself. I told her, "I love you too." And I told her to hide under your desk. To be honest, I wanted to stay on the phone because I didn't know if that would be my last call with my baby girl. But I knew that would put her in more danger. You see, you never think that you will get a call from your child about an active shooter until you do. You never think that you will get divorced until you're suddenly single. You never think that you will be in an abusive relationship until you are. We never thought that the entire world would shut down, but it did. And small business owners, they never think that they will become victims of insider fraud until they are. But as a forensic accountant with over 20 years of experience, I have seen firsthand how insider fraud, or what I've coined as the small business hitman, destroys our neighborhoods and our world. Who is this small business hitman? Oh, let me tell you, he is slick, she is sly, and they are strategic. It's the person that business owners trust the most and suspect the least. Fact, fraud is a $1 trillion industry. Yes, that's 12 zeros. Fact, organizations with fewer than 100 employees are twice as likely to become fraud victims. Since nearly 48% of US workers work for a small business or organization, that could be you. If you don't own a small business or organization or work for one, it's likely that your neighbor does. True story. In 1996, Tim opened a t-shirt print shop. His business grew so much that in 2006, he hired Sue to be his in-house bookkeeper. She was handling payroll, invoicing, and bill payment. And this was a huge relief for Tim because it allowed him to focus on the things that he did well, sales and marketing. 2 years later, his business started to lose money, but he was committed to keeping his business afloat and his employees working. So he sold both of his homes and liquidated his retirement savings because Tim thought it was the economy, except it was not the economy. It was Sue. From 2007 to 2012, she had embezzled $325,000. His business is now permanently closed. His retirement savings are gone. And because he filed bankruptcy, his credit is ruined. The neighborhood, they experienced job loss, destroyed marriages, and the local Little League team had to find another vendor for their uniforms. The small business hitman strikes again. Something similar happened to a church in Genderless, New York. Shortly after joining the church, John and Mary volunteered to handle the church's finances. John was a financial planner, and Mary was a CPA and attorney. The members of the church thought that their prayers had been answered until they started receiving collection calls and notices from vendors. Apparently, the bills were not being paid on time, and neither was the pastor. The congregation questioned the couple, and they just continuously prepared phony spreadsheets in an attempt to appease the congregation. It wasn't until one member took it upon himself to investigate the couple that he discovered that John had a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. You see, John had been convicted. He had 13 judgments. He had IRS tax liens and 11 lawsuits for breach of contract. He even pled guilty to stealing $120,000 from another business and served 5 years probation for these crimes. The small business hitman strikes again. Now, most small businesses are started with blood, sweat, and tears. The founders have borrowed from their life or retirement savings just to make this dream come true. Some are even doubted by their family and friends that they can do it. So imagine overcoming these odds just to lose it all to the hitman. But I promise you, I will not leave you scared and hopeless. You see, I am here to invite you to join the fight because I am on a mission to stop this small business hitman, but I need your help. One of the keys to stopping a fraudster is knowing what they look like. So I'll share a few traits, but in the interest of time, I'll share 3. The first thing that I need you to know is fraud is a genderless crime. Sometimes a fraudster is tall, dark, and handsome. And other times, it's a sweet little grandma who bakes oatmeal raisin cookies. The next thing that I need you to know about fraudsters is they look like dedicated employees. You see, because they are always at work. They come to work early, they leave late, and they rarely take vacations. But what you don't know is fraudsters must commit their crimes in private, so they cannot run the risk of you uncovering their fraud in their absence. The last thing that I want to tell you about a fraudster is they're flashy. And they often live beyond their means. Now, I wasn't able to tell you the full story. Remember Sue, the bookkeeper? Her salary was $25,000, but she was wearing a $20,000 wedding ring. And she even invited her boss and coworkers to her $60,000 wedding. Now, most people don't want to feel like they are being nosy or prying, but when something doesn't look right, it probably isn't. Now, I do not want you all going back to work, looking at your employees and your coworkers sideways. And it would be naive of me to think that we can completely eradicate fraud. But here are some very easy things that I teach my clients on how to catch this small business hitman. Background checks. Small businesses and organizations do a poor job of conducting background checks. Aside from the time that it takes to call a reference, it costs about $100 to get a criminal background check. Remember the church I told you about? If they had shelled out $100 for a criminal background check, their endowment fund of $673,000 would still be intact. The next thing that I need you to know is we have to make fraud uncomfortable. Talk about it. One of the biggest preventers of fraud is culture. Create a culture of honesty, integrity, and fairness, along with paying your employees a fair and livable wage. Train them on what fraud is and how to report it. Now, I know, this sounds like big company stuff, right? But yoga studios, to restaurants, to law firms, to churches, they need this too. The last thing is pay attention. Fraudsters watch what you watch. If they know that you aren't paying attention to the payroll reports, they will fudge their time. If they know that you don't look at your canceled checks, they will help themselves to your checking account. If they know that you don't take physical inventory counts, your stuff will start walking out the door. As I close, I want to leave you with two things. First, my daughter is fine. Thank God it was a false alarm. And next, if you are a small business owner or you know one, I need you to come out of denial, join the fight, and be on the lookout for the small business hitman. Thank you.